Welcome back to Brave Birds News, one of the best places for sports. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. I ask you to like and subscribe for a few reasons. First of all, it's free to do. But also, when you like and subscribe and share my videos, put the notifications on and do all of those things, that lets the YouTube algorithm know that this is content that people like. And then when I look at my analysis, it lets me know that is something that I should continue to do as far as which particular topic. So, that being said, on Sunday, July 27th, the 2025 Baseball Hall of Fame class was inducted into Cooperstown. We had Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner. Those three were elected by the Baseball Writers Association of America. And then you had Dave Parker and Dick Allen. Those two were elected by the Classic Baseball Era Committee. So anytime in every year when we get to this season, we actually get the ballots a lot earlier than this. We get the results of the ballots way before this. So we knew about who was going to get inducted today. We knew about that back in January. But once that ballot, once we get the results from that ballot, we have these conversations, and it's about who got snubbed. And we have this conversation for the All-Star game and all sports. We have it for the college football playoffs and, college football. So this is just a conversation that we have. But I want to focus on three players that have continually been snubbed by the Baseball Writers Association and so far by the Classic Baseball Era. And we're going to talk about why those three players have been snubbed. But this story, we want to start this story for looking at the 2022 MLB Hall of Fame ballot. And it's a very, very interesting ballot. This was the year when David Ortiz was elected into the Hall of Fame. But you can see that number 2 and number 3 player. Ooh, you either love or hate these two players, and more people probably hate them than love them. Barry Bonds, on his final year on the ballot, came up short. You need 75%. He only had 66%. And then you also have Roger Clemens. He needed that 75%, only 65.2%. And I think for a lot of people, when this happened, it was good riddance. We could move on. But we know that's not the case. We know that depending on who you ask and what you believe, the steroid era started somewhere around 1987 and ended sometime in the early 2000s. We know it really cranked up in the second half of the 90s after the baseball strike. But we know that in 1987, there were some players that were not really home run hitters before that year or not much after that year that had some really, really good years. Plus, we know all of the things that Jose Canseco and other people told us about the late 80s. But when you look at this 2022 ballot, has some interesting players. Curt Schilling didn't make it into the Hall of Fame. You have Gary Sheffield and Alex Rodriguez, and we're going to also talk about his snub. You have Manny Ramirez at 28.9%. We have Sammy Sosa. We're not even gonna talk about Sammy Sosa. And I say that because when it comes to Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, we have a sample of them being really good to Hall of Fame players before the steroid era really kicked in. We know that we had skinny Barry Bonds from the late 80s and early 90s, and we had Roger Clemens, who was less stout, or whatever you want to say, in the late 80s and early 90s. But we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about Alex Rodriguez. So let's look at the 2025 ballot. Skip ahead 3 years. Obviously, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are not on this ballot. You have Andruw Jones getting closer and closer. Alex Rodriguez not making a lot of headway. He is at 37.1%. And this fourth year on. Manny Ramirez not making a lot of headway, 34.3% on his 9th year out of 10 on the ballot. So I know for a lot of people, they're just going to be so happy when the Alex Rodriguez's and the Manny Ramirez's get off of these ballots and we can stop talking about it. because we know that these three sluggers, or these three very good players, are not in the Hall of Fame because of, mostly, not all the way, but mostly because of the steroid usage that some of them admitted to, or some of them were caught with, or we just know just by looking, using the eyeballs that we were given as humans. Because it's crazy. If you were an alien that just landed from outer space and you were put into a statistical lab and looked at the stats of Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Roger Clemens, you would no doubt say, okay, they're definitely in that Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. But we know when it comes to the Hall of Fame, it's bigger than just your stats. And I say I say that because a lot of it for these players also has to do with their personality, because we know that when they played, especially Barry Bonds, he was not a liked person, and he earned that. He earned that. He wasn't a friendly giant. Like I threw that in there, but no, he wasn't the friendliest player in the world. Now, also to his defense, he claimed that the reason why he wasn't friendly was because of how people treated his dad back in the day. His dad played baseball in a much tougher era of playing baseball for players like himself, and he remembered how people treated his dad and other Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, and it kind of stuck with him a little bit. But I don't want to use that excuse too much because life is about forgiveness and moving on. But yeah, Barry Bonds wasn't the best person in the world to get along with. And then you have Alex Rodriguez. He's rubbed people, even in his post-baseball career, he's rubbed people the wrong way. And we know Roger Clemens was also a person where you loved or hate. So when you consider that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens got to 66 and 65%, it wasn't all the way statistics. And then, I mean, just a purity test. A lot of people have said it over the years, but we have some scumbags and very not so good people in the Hall of Fame. So you have the people that are the purists, and you have the people that say, look, we have scumbags. I'm on both sides of the equation. I think what allegedly happened with a lot of these players had to be tough. I could not imagine going to my job where I work at, and imagine you at your job, and there were people at your job who were getting promotions and raises and all of these things, and you knew they were not following the rules. And not only were they not following the rules, they were getting accolades. It would drive you crazy. And for some of us, if we saw everybody at our job doing wrong and getting accolades, it would actually make us, it could potentially persuade us to do the wrong thing. So that's the thing that really gets lost sometimes in the argument. It's just like, because Barry Bonds claimed that it drove him insane to see Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa getting all that attention, knowing what they were doing, because at that point he was allegedly still doing it the right way, and allegedly did it the right way his whole career. But so even that had an impact on Barry Bonds. So, but we also know that not having Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Roger Clemens and other players like that, it actually weakens the Hall of Fame, and it actually just takes away from the Hall of Fame, because it allows people like me and others to have these videos that a lot of people are tired of talking about, but we have to bring up. So let me know your thoughts about the snubs of Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez, and Roger Clemens, and any other people that you think should be in the Hall of Fame. Leave a comment. Once again, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you next time.